Hi everyone, my name is Tanya and today I want to talk about books and cover one of the things I've been thinking about, one of the ideas that I had, and that is my problem with translated books. A little of introduction. My native language is Russian, if you didn't know, and for all my life I mostly read books in Russian. And not only Russian books, but of course a lot of classics or other books translated from different languages to Russian. I started reading in English, which is my second language, only when I was around 12. I started reading books for children like Roald Dahl, and only when I was around 13 or 14 I started reading teenage books like John Green or Rainbow Rowell and other writers of that style, like young adult novels. And only very recently, when I turned maybe 15 last year I turned 16 so when I turned like 15, 16, I started reading like classics and more difficult books in English in the original version. Now I try also to start reading French classical books, but it's still kind of difficult. But for all my life, like those 15 years, I've read so many translated English classics, and it didn't cause a lot of trouble to me. I didn't mind reading translated books. But in the last couple of years, I've noticed that now I have an inner irritation towards translated books and I dislike them slightly. I will try explain why and what are my thoughts on that topic in this video. So if you have similar thoughts, keep on watching, and if you don't, also keep on watching and you can tell me why you disagree with me. Before going further, I want to say that even though I think that translated books are still very valuable and they are still very similar to that book in the original version, I still think that, and I think that everyone can agree, that sometimes it is impossible to transmit something with a translation, or it is very difficult, or it will be appreciated differently in another language. So if you want to really experience that book to the fullest, it is of course always better to read it in the original version. You will sense that style of writing from the writer and not from a translator, even if that translator is doing a very good job in transmitting it into another language. When I started reading in English, for example, I disliked even a thought of reading an English book in Russian, because in my head I was like, okay, I already know English, I already can read in English, so why should I read in Russian when this book should be better in an original version, which is in English, so I should read it in English. This thought might seem simple at the surface. You might think, okay, now you can read in English, go ahead and read all the books that you haven't already read them in English, because now you have this ability. But not for me. For me, this thought gave birth to many other different thoughts connected to this topic, which started to irritate me. For example, some of my favorite books and authors are actually translated. So I will explain. One of my favorite authors, for example, is Erich Maria Remarque, and this author is German. I have read 4 of his books and I absolutely loved all of them, and I can with all my heart say that this is one of my absolutely favorite authors and I want to reread these books. But I read them in Russian, so I read them in a translation, and they were originally written in German and I don't speak German. So when I started thinking about this problem, I started questioning myself. Do I actually know Remarque? Is he my favorite author? Because I've read him only in translation. Can I, with all my heart, say that he is my favorite author if I haven't read him in the original version? If I haven't sensed his tongue, I haven't sensed his language, I haven't sensed those beautiful sentences in German in the language that he wrote. Can I say with that full certainty that he's my favorite author? That became a question for me, and I still can't answer it fully. The second thing is, I read most of the classics, not Russian classics, let's say that, in Russian. And so again, I start questioning, like, I've read a lot of classics in Russian. Does it mean that I have really sensed them? Can I say that I really understand what those books are about and all the ideas that they want to transmit? For example, authors like George Orwell, Hemingway, I read them in Russian. Or Ray Bradbury also, for example. They wrote some of the most important books in the world, like 1984 by George Orwell or Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I've read them in Russian. Does it mean that I fully understood what the author wanted to say? A part of that thought that I haven't really experienced them fully. I also have a regret because those are English classics, so classics that were written in English, and this is the language that I am comfortable reading in right now, and I have that inner regret that I haven't read them in English because, for example, with Remark, I don't have that regret because I still can't speak German, and so I couldn't have read them in German because I don't know that language. But with English, I know that language, so I have a regret that I haven't read them in English because I could have, but I didn't. And now I think, should I reread them? Should I reread those classics in English right now because now I can speak it and re-feel all those things and experience that book fully and completely? So these are the questions that I ask. I'm crazy. So the third problem is, I already own some books that are translated and I don't want to read them because, for example, I can show you here. For example, Jane Austen. She's also one of my favorite authors. So my grandmother gave these two books for me. It's Jane Austen, but translated into Russian, Mansfield Park and Emma. At that time, when I received them, I was very happy, but I didn't come around reading them, so I haven't read them. But now, I don't want to read them because they're in Russian. I really want to read Emma and Mansfield Park because I haven't read them yet, and Jane Austen is one of my favorite authors, so I'm super excited to read those books, but I want to read them in English. I want to read them in the original version. On one hand, it's very stupid to not read the books that you already own, so just like a waste of books, a waste of paper to buy new books when you already own them, but in another language. But I really want to experience Jane Austen in her native language, like in the original version. So I don't want to read these books, even though I have them. So I just pretend that I don't have them and I read other books. And so of course I think that translations are not bad, and of course they are awesome because with translations we can read and we are open to so many books and cultures in other languages that we don't know, and of course there is no such person that can learn all the languages to read everything in the original version. But with the languages that I know, I still feel that very, very strong irritation of reading something not in the original version, and also guilt. That's kind of a language guilt. So just to summarize, this idea of not liking the translated books have generated three major problems for me. The first one is, can I really say that my favorite author is the one that I've read in translation? The second problem is, have I really understood all the classics that I've already read, but in the translated version and not in the original, even though I could have? And the third one is not reading the books that you already have just because they're translated. I am that person that combines two interests, so languages and reading are two of my major interests, so I really like to combine them. I really like to read in other languages, but I know people that just like languages, so they don't care about books. But other people just like reading, so they will read translated versions without feeling any guilt, and they will mostly read in their native language without feeling any guilt just because they love reading. I am that combination of both, so reading in the original version is something important for me, and it's also one of my biggest motivation with many languages. That were my thoughts. I hope that it was interesting. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video.